Hi, and welcome to whatever this channel is about. So, I've seen a few memes along this vein in defense of Medusa, and gave some thought about it, and there's a valid point here. So, first, the history of Medusa. For anyone who doesn't know, it's a very common story. Comes from Greek mythology, and the original story, she was the one of the children of these two primordial gods, maritime gods. Not any one that you would have heard of, or I've never heard of. I know I'm going to butcher this, but their names were Phorcys and Celio. Okay. Basically, the gods before the gods. And those two were known for having lots of kids who were monsters, with Medusa being one of them. And the earliest myths, even then, Perseus comes along and chops off her head. And that's the story. Later, when it gets into Roman mythology, it's Neptune and Nirvana who are... It's basically Poseidon and Athena who are the main characters. Poseidon has sex with Medusa, who is just a fair maiden, in one of Athena's temples. And Athena gets upset and curses Medusa. Which, well, when you have any kind of story with a mortal and a god type character, yeah, consent isn't involved. So Athena is really taking her anger at the wrong person. So anyway, so she gets cursed, and what does she do? Well, in all the stories, she's off living in a cave somewhere, away from civilization. She's not guarding any treasure. She's not harassing any nearby villages. She is just living her own life away from people. And then Perseus comes along and chops off her head, which is kind of weird. I mean, in the later, most of the versions, there's a king who asks Perseus to do it for weird reasons. He wants to marry Perseus' mother, and I guess that's how he decides to do it. And then Athena pops in of course, later stories, and gives Perseus a bunch of gifts so he can go ahead and do it. And so not only did Athena curse her, but then also helped get her killed. It's a weird situation. It's like Medusa was not acting monstrous enough for Athena after being turned into a monster, so Athena decides to get revenge on her, like more. So either way, Medusa's like living her own life in her own little space, and people are harassing her. They could have just left her alone, and everything would have been fine. So, yeah, there is a lot of truth to this meme. And then the other weird part is when she dies, a Pegasus springs forth from her, which I guess was Poseidon's child. Which, yeah, Poseidon is sometimes seen as a horse type character or associated with horses. So it does make sense that the Pegasus, it's still weird. Overall, it's not a good look for Perseus or even Athena. And the movie Clash of the Titans, I think, does a really good job of retelling the story. But even then, you can't really see Perseus as being heroic, because the only motivation he has to kill Medusa is because people tell him to. Again, she's not doing anything. So she actually chose, like, I've been cursed, I decided to hide away from society, and people still harass her. So there's a very valid point in this meme and other memes like it. Anyway, it gives me some thought to other stories in reviewing or reconciling how they're perceived, how the monsters or villains are perceived in those stories. And that's my thoughts for today. What are your thoughts? Have a good one.